To the Citrus Today Show. Ron Williams is joining us on the program today. Glad to have you here. You have written a book called Meet Anna's Friends, and this book is a discussion about different gifts that children have when it comes to, I guess, relationships, when it comes to being successful in school, and reading, and all these other things. First, for folks out there, set the background up for us, your background.
My background, okay. Years ago, I taught Sunday school, wonderful little kids, and during that time, I discovered the motivational gifts in the Bible, Romans 12, verses 6 through 8. And there's 7 of those gifts. All of us are born with them. You don't hear much about these taught in churches or from the pulpit. They teach about ministry gifts and spiritual gifts, but not motivational gifts. And these, to me, are the most fascinating because they actually motivate us towards giving God's love out. All of us are born with these gifts. But you can identify children's gifts very early, as early as 4 and 5 years old. So I thought when I learned about the gifts and was teaching the kids, what if parents understood the character traits associated with each gift? How would that transform their parenting style and how they affect their children's upbringing if they understood why they do what they do?
Right.
So that's what birthed this many, many years ago.
Well, you're going to be speaking at the Homosassa Library coming up on September the 15th, so this Thursday. Yes. At 6 o'clock, folks will have to come out and meet you and ask questions and learn a little bit about everything at that time. We only have a few minutes here, so we're going to try and get some of it into a capsule for you and kind of whet your appetite. What are these gifts that children are born with and have?
Okay, there's 7 of them. There's exhortation, which is the gift of encouragement. There's facilitator, which is the leader, the one that gets things done, pulls the people together, gets projects done. Then there's the giver, who really cares about practical needs of others. If someone doesn't have shoes or a coat or is hungry, they'll take the groceries, you know, that type of person. Then we have the mercy person, who wants to alleviate suffering. The mercy person is the one that cries at the drop of a hat, loves animals, loves older people, just wants to alleviate suffering of others, no matter what that suffering might be. Then we have the prophetic person, the one who really wants people to be good and walk in God's ways and just do what's right. And then we have the service person, who they call it helps, ministry of helps. They want to help do anything that comes along. They just want to help. No matter what the task, they want to help. They're quiet. They don't want to get up in front of people. And then you have the teacher, obviously, that does a lot of research and has to prove the truth. They love to read the scriptures. So those are the 7 gifts, and each one of them have predominant characteristic traits.
Are these easy to identify in children?
They are. They really, really are. There's dominant traits that you can identify them readily, and then there's a lot of other smaller traits that when you combine the whole character of the child, you can see pretty readily what the trait is, or what the motivational gift is.
Right.
Yes.
So this book is written for parents and grandparents, I'm sure, who want to identify specific traits that their children have early on so they can develop them and nourish those particular gifts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Parents, grandparents, youth leaders, pastors, youth pastors, anybody that has oversight of children, teachers, school teachers.
Very good. How long did it take you to come up with the book, to get it together, all the information that you had to gather?
It took many, many years. I discovered the gifts, like I mentioned, over 20 years ago, and I began to just research. I took the information that I learned and began to watch children to see if it added up to what I was learning, and sure enough, it does. There are patterns that you can see in children and identify them quite early, but it took many, many years. I started writing it just over 2 years ago and finished it this spring. So it's doing well. Parents are loving it. I had one parent come up to me at a conference, and she stayed up all night long reading the trait list and marking her 7 children's traits, and came back to my booth the next day and said, look, let's talk about this.
So a lot of questions after they go through.
Yes.
Your discussion with folks this coming Thursday, give us kind of an insight on how you will cover different things.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll start with what are the gifts, so parents understand the difference, because a lot of people say, well, are these the same as spiritual gifts? And no, they're not. Similar but different. They have a different motivation. That's what they call motivational gifts. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll go through each of the 7 gifts and outline a lot of the traits, and just do some fun things. I have some checklists that they can mark off and then begin to identify their children's gifts right there. It's just going to be a fun evening of education and learning.
I'm sure you have the book available Thursday night,
Yes.
but is there there other places that folks can get the book also?
They can go to my website. It's www.annasfriends.com.
Very easy to remember.
Very easy.
Okay. Do you have other information on that website that would be beneficial to them also?
Oh, absolutely. I have a a page where they can get free downloads. There's different checklists and different little quizzes that they can utilize to just do right there at home. You can go to the website, go to that page, and download those forms and begin to check them off.
Okay.
Yes. A lot of information.
Do people need to RSVP beforehand for this particular session, or just show up?
Just show up. RSVP would be great, but just show up.
Okay. And that's again at the Homosassa Library, if you're not familiar with where that's at, off of Grover Cleveland Boulevard. It's at 4100 South Grand March Avenue. And again, it's 6 o'clock that you'll be there speaking, answering questions, and so forth. During the course of discovery on these gifts and whatnot, can you give me some examples, and I know you can't give names, but examples of children that you've seen that really excelled at gifts?
Well, again, almost every child, once they're identified, will begin to excel. In the book, I wrote a section about how to develop the gift in your child once you identify it. And there's things that families can do that enhance their gift. For example, the Mercy Child needs to understand the difference in a healthy relationship and one that just kind of pulls them in because of their mercy gift. So they have to be taught when not to really get involved on a personal level and when to use the gift. So each gift has a section that tells the parent, this is what you can do to train your child. There's obstacles with each gift too, things they have to overcome, such as I mentioned with the Mercy Child.
Right.
But the lady I mentioned that came to my booth with her 7 kids, she did contact me and she said, this is absolutely changing our family dynamic, because now they understand what the children's gifts are and how to get them to get along with each other based on their gifts.
That could be a big part of the equation,
Yes.
getting along together
Yes.
with other kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
for example, the Mercy Child and the Prophetic Child. Whoa.
You're going to have
Yeah,
a
it's
little...
a tough one because the Mercy just can't stand up for herself, and the Prophetic Child is do it this way, and they're just complete opposites.
Right.
So you have to learn why they don't get along and then help them develop their gifts to get along.
All right, be sure and be there. It's Thursday night, Homosassa Library, 6 o'clock. And Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us on the show.